Okay, good evening everyone. So in the previous class we have seen about re-entry vehicle with wing configuration. So we have discussed about why the space shuttle configuration is having strake, wing strake actually. So we have studied about three type of strakes, whereas in space shuttle configuration or in re-entry vehicle with winged configuration, we will be having leading edge root extensions. Okay, leading edge root extensions. So I hope you might have submitted your assignment on re-entry vehicle with winged configuration. So what about Ismail? Have you submitted that?
Yes, sir, submitted.
Okay, dear, fine. Jagdi?
So I submitted it.
Okay, fine, fine. Okay, okay, fine. Okay. So the next factors we have seen about just a basic introduction. Also we have seen about what is the exact scenario happening from launch to landing. Okay, we have not studied about what is happening in the orbital transfer, but we know that already we have studied in propulsion of like in every basic aerospace engineering or aeronautical engineering subject. Propulsion we have studied and we have done with the launching. So also we have covered with the fact of how we are going to perform the landing. So what is the first phase we have studied? We have focused with hypersonic wind tunnel testing. So what is the leeward side, windward side? So those factors we have discussed, right? So let's come into the aerodynamic factors. So this is where we have left in the previous session. So studying about the aerodynamics factor of a space shuttle configuration. So remember that we have taken an example of space shuttle orbiter for re-entry vehicle with winged configuration. Okay. So the same type of performance factors are applicable for any type of winged vehicle, winged re-entry vehicle. So if I'm just comparing the space shuttle and ISRO's RLV, RLV is just a flight test has been done. They have not done with crew members or they have not gone with successive flight testing. So the initial flight test they have done. So the peak altitude, what ISRO's RLV achieved is 65 kilometer around. So it's plus or minus 65 kilometer plus or minus. Whereas when we speak about space shuttle car orbiter, it has successfully flown more than 120 flights, okay, from takeoff to land. So although we have some disasters, some accidents, but mostly it is a successful thing. Okay. So peak Mach number attained by ISRO's RLV is around 4.8, which is near to hypersonic speed, not exactly the hypersonic. It is very near to the hypersonic. We can call that as high supersonic speed. Okay, high supersonic speed. So the peak Mach number attained by ISRO's RLV is 4.78 Mach number, whereas our space shuttle orbiter is attaining with a Mach of 30. So Mach 30 means near about 8 kilometers per second. 8 kilometers per second. Okay. But ISRO's RLV it has been attained only with 4.78, the peak Mach number. And that is also while re-entering, right? When they are performing the re-entry Mach number, it is 3.9. So the scenario, think about that work what ISRO has to do because they need to have a better structure for RLV. They need to have better aerodynamic vehicle for RLV. They need to have good avionics instruments in RLV and good stability and control, right? Flyability. So that is also important. So ISRO is in the beginning stage of developing a re-entry vehicle with winged configuration. So if you guys are designing such type of vehicle which can give better performance than RLV, right? By you have to study about, of course, you have to study about re-entry vehicle with winged configuration, what space shuttle is doing, how they have designed space shuttle configuration, and what are the factors they have included, right? So one of the few factors we have discussed earlier. So the first thing is wing strike. Why we are using wing strike? To maintain the stability at low speed, right? To maintain the stability at low speed. So what is exactly happening in the re-entry phase? We are decreasing the speed. So if someone asks about what is the objective of re-entering, what is the objective as a designer point of view? What is the objective? Suppose I am an aerospace engineer. I am going to design an RLV and I'm going to study the re-entry scenario. So what will be my objective? My objective will be decelerate the aircraft. How I am going to decelerate the spacecraft? Okay. So that is my ultimate agenda, ultimate aim of the particular project. So suppose if you are taking re-entry vehicle with winged configuration and you want to work in the hypersonic regime, then you have to take your objective that how we are going to decelerate our vehicle and we are going to land safely. Okay. So the first reason I have told you that we have to fly at larger angle of attack, right? We have discussed that earlier. So angle of attack need to be around 40 degree, 40 plus 45, 40 degree around. So why we are flying with 40-degree angle of attack? Because when we are increasing the angle of attack, our CL starts to decrease. Coefficient of lift decreases. If coefficient of lift decreases, coefficient of drag is increasing. Coefficient of drag is increasing. So by increasing the drag, we can reduce the speed of the vehicle. Okay. So this is what we have studied in the previous session. Okay. Right. So just we will compare with the data. Although we have studied theoretically, what exactly the results are showing. Because we cannot believe in each and every factor, right? We have to understand in the researcher point of view, and we have to study some literature work, previous literature work. So the data we are showing here is with Space Shuttle Orbiter, which is having a Mach number as a function of angle of attack, right? Because it depends based on angle of attack. CL is changing based on angle of attack. CD is changing based on angle of attack. L by D is changing based on angle of attack. Pitching moment is changing. So the reference they have taken is, that is X reference indicates the center of gravity position. Center of gravity position is 0.65 times the length of the vehicle. L reference, length of the vehicle. So that we have seen in the first slide itself of the previous session. Okay, depending upon the location. So you have to identify the location also, right? Location of center of gravity is very much important in designing a vehicle. Dimensions, weight factors are the preliminary important thing when we are designing a new vehicle. So let's see what happens with lift coefficient with various angle of attack, and what is happening with the drag coefficient with various angle of attack. So Mach number is given over here. Mach number scenario is given over here, right? So the black color indicates, green color indicates, and dotted line indicates. So since our main agenda is to decelerate the vehicle, so we will just consider with angle of attack and coefficient of drag. Okay. Because we are going to increase the drag. So as that, the result shows that at Mach number 20, an angle of attack is 40. When angle of attack is 40, we can experience a high coefficient of drag values. High coefficient of drag value. Right? Coefficient of drag is high at three scenarios: Mach 3, Mach 5, and Mach 20. So in all possible aspects, we have to fly at larger angle of attack. So what it indicates, when the vehicle is coming back, right? So let's say we are having 10 minutes time scenario for deceleration. For completing the mission, we are having 10 minutes time. We are having 10 minutes time. Okay. So what we are going to do in this 10 minutes, we want to decelerate the vehicle, right? We want to decelerate the vehicle. So how we are going to decelerate? By flying at larger angle of attack. Because the reason why we are choosing larger angle of attack, our drag coefficient is high at this particular Mach number. Okay. Sorry. Sorry for that. Sorry for that. Next we are going to compare with angle of attack and lift to drag ratio. Angle of attack, lift to drag ratio. Okay. So what is happening? Drag is higher at this scenario. L by D, right? L by D can be written as CL by CD also. L by D can be the same as CL by CD. So what is the other name of this L by D ratio? Anyone? Jagdidi or Ismail? What is the other name of L by D ratio, lift to drag ratio? Aerodynamic efficiency. Yes, aerodynamic efficiency. Okay. So when we are speaking about aircrafts, we always need a better aerodynamic efficiency. Okay. But when we are speaking about re-entry vehicle with winged or non-winged configuration, we have to think about less aerodynamic efficient vehicle. Okay, less aerodynamic efficient vehicle. So if you see the graphical data of aerodynamic performance at 40-degree angle of attack, we will be having lesser lift to drag ratio. But when we are speaking about subsonic flight, that is Mach 0.25. So when we are flying with Mach 0.25, the same vehicle, the same re-entry vehicle is going to have good aerodynamic efficiency, which is having a L by D of 4. So the design of re-entry vehicle with certain altitude, with certain altitude, like let's say from 100 kilometer, right? Here they have mentioned 122 kilometer, just approximately 100 kilometer to 50 kilometer. We will be flying with supersonic regime. Okay, let's consider like that. So after that, we are going to fly with subsonic regime. Okay, so we are reducing the speed, hypersonic and then supersonic and then transonic, and then we are going to subsonic regime. So in this particular scenario, we need to have lesser aerodynamic efficiency, but after certain altitude, we need to have good aerodynamic efficiency. What is the reason of that? Because we want to stabilize the aircraft or spacecraft. Okay, stability of the spacecraft is very much important. So with Mach number 0.25, we are getting a good L by D ratio because of introducing a strake wing. Because of introducing a strake wing. Okay, so your design, if you are going for re-entry vehicle with winged configuration, leading edge root extension is one of the important parameter. One of the important parameter. So whether nowadays whatever the applications they have done previously for space shuttle or ISRO's RLV, no one has considered the morphing technology for this particular scenario. Okay, so I am giving a hint for your research. So when you are going to, after completion of this training program, you can go for like you are going to do a project, right? So you can take this scenario, no one has done morphing for this particular problem, So if you are interested, you can take this and you can develop a morphing wing configuration concept for strake angle development. Okay, strake wing development. Okay, so that will be good and your reputation will be good. Okay, because remember that ISRO is still under the development. Okay, still under the development of RLVDT. So there are many chances if you develop a new model and if you submit to ISRO. Okay. So the same scenario has been repeated with various type of location of center of gravity, and we can verify that how our vehicle is going to be stable or not. Okay. But there is another disadvantage when we are increasing the angle of attack. What is that? Our pitching moment is going to be larger, right? Pitching moment will be large because we are increasing the angle of attack at 45-degree angle of attack, right? 45-degree angle of attack, which will create excess pitching moment, scenario. So here also you can see this is in the negative angle of attack, which will be used in the while landing, but while re-entering we are going to experience a negative pitching moment coefficient. So this creates a pitching moment anomaly. Okay, pitching moment anomaly. So that we will be discussing in the upcoming slide how we are going to rectify this pitching moment, excess pitching moment problem. Okay, so that I will discuss in the upcoming slides. So the drag coefficient has its minimum for all Mach numbers at small angle of attack. So whatever the Mach number it is, whether it is Mach 20 or Mach 30, so if you are seeing this lower angle of attack scenario, the drag coefficient is minimum, right? Drag coefficient is minimum. So I hope you can understand the minimum drag condition, minimum power conditions, right? Because you might have learned in your flight mechanics subject or airplane performance subject. So the same is applicable. So the drag coefficient has minimum value for all Mach numbers at small angle of attack as expected and rises then fast to the large values. But when angle of attack is increasing for higher Mach number, the rise in drag coefficient is larger. Okay, rise in drag coefficient is larger. So that's what this line indicates. Okay. So the next thing is the maximum lift to drag ratio LVD is 4.5 in subsonic regime, which I have told right now, and reduces to LVD maximum equal to 2 in the hypersonic regime. So hypersonic regime is around 1 here. Okay. Because various Mach number is there, right? Mach number 5 and Mach number 20. So this scenario explains that. So when it comes to the pitching moment, a largest negative derivative of dou Cm by dou alpha, change in pitching moment with respect to change in angle of attack, that is Mach 1.1, right? So here you can see for pitching moment, Mach 1.1 is having yellow color. For less than that, 18-degree angle of attack indicates strong static stability for alpha 18 degrees. So you just have a look at the yellow color graph, okay, curve. So from there you can see that at zero angle of attack it is nearly positive. When it comes to near to about 5-degree angle of attack, pitching moment coefficient is 0 and it is getting negative, whereas at 20 it is getting high, right? It is decreasing and then it is increasing. So a largest negative derivative is found at Mach 1.1 indicates strong stability for alpha less than 18 degree. So less than 18 degree, that is good with Mach number 1.1. The same configuration becomes unstable with greater than Mach 3 scenario. So look at the graph for Mach 3 and less than Mach 3. Greater than Mach 3. So greater than Mach 3 is indicated with dotted lines. So here you can see every factor is in the negative indication, right? Negative pitching moment. Whereas Mach number less than 3, it is fine, right? It is indicating positive and negative pitching moment. So stability is good with less than Mach 3, and also that is good with less than 18-degree angle of attack. But when the vehicle is flying at greater than angle of attack, Mach number 3, our vehicle is unstable. Our vehicle is unstable. Okay. So we have to think all the few concepts like how we are going to do and how we are going to maintain the stability of the aircraft, the spacecraft. So the actual longitudinal center of gravity envelope for the orbiter entry interface of near about 122 kilometer altitude up to 1995. So they have kept the CG position around 0.65 to 0.67, but later after 1995 they have changed that center of gravity position from 0.66 to 0.671. After doing various type of research, they have identified that we need to shift the center of gravity within this particular range. So while designing for your project, you have to use this factor, and you can take a reference like STS1, right? Has been used this, and up to 1995 the space shuttle configuration has used this. You can take this as a reference for your spacecraft design. Okay, right. So this is a scenario like what are the aerodynamic performance factors of space shuttle configuration. So let's see some of the control surfaces and how we are going to maintain the stability of the vehicle in the outer space. So these are the general parts like how we are having aircraft parts. So a space shuttle configuration is having a nose gear. A space shuttle configuration is having mid deck, right? So for astronauts, and we will be having electrical system, fuels, and main landing gear. So when it comes to the control surfaces, we are having aileron instead of aileron and elevator. We have the combination of aileron and elevator called as aileron. So again, we are having outboard aileron and inboard aileron. So this is inboard and this is outboard aileron. So using these control surfaces is not going to help in the outer space. Only when the vehicle is entering into the atmospheric condition, this inboard and outboard aileron will help, right? That you are aware of that. Another important factor is there in the space shuttle design, which is called as body flap. So although they generally, when we are speaking generally, all the type of control surfaces in aircraft also, even the pilots, they will say that decrease the flap, increase the flap angle, right? Deflection angles of flap. So sometimes in the book also, if you take the reference in the book or in the research articles, they will be calling every control surface as flap. Okay, so that is a general term. Okay, but when we are learning, we have to be very much clear that which indicates the flap. So here in space shuttle configuration, they are having body flap under the engine. Under the engine. So I will explain this how this body flap will be helping our vehicle's stability and control also. Okay. So then it comes to the engines, because this is a two-stage to orbit vehicle which we have discussed earlier. But performing maneuvering, orbital maneuvering can be done with maneuvering engines. There are two maneuvering engines in space shuttle orbiter. Aft control thrusters we are having, main engines we are having. So using these engines, we can maintain the orbital transfer. Okay. but this is not going to be sufficient for the vehicle to maintain the orbit transfer or in the orbital path. So there are some reaction control thrusters or forward control thrusters are available in the nose section. So there are engines at the rear end, but that is also used for orbital transfer or performing the maneuverings. But this is not sufficient. So they have included reaction control engines in the nose section. Reaction control system or engine or thrusters. They will be calling RCS system. Okay, reaction control system. So these forward control thrusters are used whenever we are performing orbital maneuvering. Whenever we are performing orbital maneuvering. So I will show some pictures like how it can be done and what are the things we can do. So other traditional parts, space radiators, payload, long duration exposure facility, manipulator arm, and flight tech, right? So those are our general factors. So let's see how we are going to stabilize the spacecraft. This is the image which I want to show you about the forward reaction control system. So the same system is used in SpaceX Crew Dragon also. So if I show Crew Dragon, yeah, so here you can see that in the surface of, yeah, here it is clearly mentioned, right? So these are our reaction control systems in SpaceX Crew Dragon. Okay, but in ISRO's RLV there is no such type of reaction control system because it has not attained the outer space. It has just flown for up to a altitude of 65 kilometer. Okay, they have not tested that in the outer space. They have tested only in the Earth atmosphere. So suppose if you want to include this reaction control system, you can include that. Okay, so you have to think various innovative type and you can apply that in the RLV vehicles. Okay, re-entry vehicles. So how this RCS system is going to help in maneuverability? So there are near about 16 jets in the front nose section of the space shuttle and nearly 14 jets in the rear end. So when we are performing the orbital transfer, if you want to move left or right, right? So when an aircraft is in the atmosphere, if you want to do the yawing movement left or right, we can use rudder. When we want to roll, we can use aileron. When we want to pitch up or pitch down, we can use elevator. But in the outer space, to perform such type of maneuverings, these jet systems are used. So simply if I want to move towards left, I have to activate the thrusters in the right hand side, right? Opposite direction, right? So we have to create thrust in this direction so our vehicle can move in the left direction. So suppose if I want to maintain the stability, I can maintain with the rear control systems, reaction control systems at the rear word, okay, rear end of the engine. So by this way, they will perform the orbital transfer or orbital maneuvering, whatever maneuvering they want to perform, even docking with International Space Station, they will be performing with this RCS control systems. So there are various research are going on with this RCS system also. So you can learn about that. Okay. So RVW is longitudinally trimmed by the deflection of one or more trim surfaces. So those can be elevons or body flap, right? That we were very much aware of that. So downward deflection, eta positive causes an upward flap force and a nose down increment of a pitching moment. So what will happen, like exactly in an aircraft, when we are deflecting the elevator downwards, when we are deflecting the elevators downwards, what will happen? A lift will be generated in the tail section, right? Elevator is located in the tail section. So a lift is generated in the tail section and our nose will be going down. So the same scenario is replicated here. The same scenario is replicated over here. So same when we are using Ele-1, upward deflection gives a downward flap force and a nose up increment. So when we are deflecting the ailerons downward, inboard aileron and outward aileron, we will be getting the nose up displacement. Okay. So those are all general factor. So that force diagram of trim and stability is mentioned over here also. So most important factor is there are two control surfaces we need to discuss. One is rudder and speed brake. Another one is body flap. So we know the function of rudder, right? So how the rudder is working and we know how it is going to be useful for our stability, directional stability. How this rudder can act as a speed brake? How this rudder can act as a speed brake? So let's see a video how this rudder is used as a speed brake. Okay. So speed brake in the sense we are going to decrease the speed, right? So we are going to increase the drag. So how we are going to increase the drag? So I am just showing this video. So you watch this when a space shuttle is landing, right? Is about to land. So here you can see that it has successfully touched down and parachutes are ejected. Parachutes are ejected for the reason of to decrease the speed, right? To decrease the speed by increasing the drag. So parachutes are deployed to increase the drag to reduce the speed. Okay. So look into the rudder. What is happening with the rudder? Here you can see the rudder is splitted into two equal halves. So think about how the design works. We know the scenario, right? As surface area increases, both the drag and lift is based on the surface area, right? So when we split the rudder into two equal halves, we can increase the area. By increasing the area, we can increase the drag. So apart from using parachutes, if we are having speed brake, rudders are used as speed brake, we can increase the drag and slow down our vehicle. So one of the future of rudder with speed brake is a good concept for increasing the drag. So that same can be applied with dual rudder system, right? Dual vertical tail in RLV also. Okay. Or if you are designing your aircraft or spacecraft, you can implement this in that also. Even you can apply this in cruise and acceleration vehicle also and in aircrafts also. Suppose if you are going for any aircraft design project, you can take this concept and you can implement that also. Right. So the next thing is body flap, right? As I told, first one is rudder and second one is body flap. So if you see the body flap, it is located under the engine. So we cannot deflect that upward. We cannot deflect the body flap upward. It can be only deflected downwards. So how and why they have fixed like this? Because having a flap such that will create some scenario, right? What was the scenario? If we cannot pass, it is not possible to deflect upward. It is only possible to deflect downward. Even though we are having L1, if let's consider we are deflecting our body flap downward, what will happen? The flow hits here and it will generate a lift, and that lift creates a pitching down movement. That lift creates a pitching down movement. So why NASA has designed such type of control surface? Because we need to think that our pitching moment at higher Mach number greater than 3, our pitching moment creates unstable condition. Right? We have just learned that. Our pitching moment, the vehicle becomes unstable at Mach number greater than 3. So which indicates we are flying at larger angle of attack, which will create a pitch up movement. So by introducing a body flap, which will be only able to deflect downward, we can maintain the stability of the vehicle. So that's why this body flap is designed in such a way that it can be deflected downward. It cannot be deflected at larger deflections, cannot be done with upward condition. Okay. So these two are the important factors which is playing in the stability and control of the vehicle. So that's what they explained over here also. So the same force and movement diagram is explained. So a lift force before trimming and lift force after trimming. Lift and drag forces after trim condition. Okay, stability. So stability can be obtained by eta BF. Eta BF means deflection angle of body flap. So body flap can be deflected downwards, and we can trim the re-entry vehicle with wing configurations. So with this, I am ending today's session. So if you are having any doubt, please let me know. And I request all of you to, both of you to think how you can implement these concepts if you are choosing RVW, okay, re-entry vehicle with W with winged configuration. So you can think how we can utilize this in your configurations. Okay. So suppose if you are having any doubt, please let me know.
Sir, one minute.
Yes.
Sir, can you open pitching moment versus alpha plots?
Yes, dear. Pitching moment versus alpha. Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes. Sir, at a certain angle of attack for different Mach numbers, slope is increasing, no, sir. Cursor going up.
Here.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
At some point,
Yes.
Cursor raising. So, will we use that angle of attack after also point, sir? Because slope is negative up to a certain angle of attack only, no, sir.
Yeah,
To
that's
that region only we have static stability.
yeah.
Criteria.
So that's why they have clearly indicated that we have to fly with lesser than 18 degree when we are reaching a speed limit less than Mach 1.1. So when our speed decreases, because we are decreasing the speed, right? Speed is not going to increase. We are decreasing the speed. So when the vehicle is coming to 1 Mach number, we have to reduce the angle of attack less than 18 degree. So that's what it is increasing. Even though when they have tested, when they have done the research, the graphs are shown with the research values, but in the real life scenario, they will be flying less than 18 degree for maintaining the stability at low speeds. Clear?
Okay, sir.
Okay. Jagrati, any doubt? Okay. See, I hope you are learning something new, but if you are not implementing that in your particular project, that is not going to help you. Okay. So you have to learn many things. I have just given an introduction. Like we cannot complete a entire hypersonic vehicle design or any subjects. We cannot complete that within a short span of time. But if you are having your like interest in this particular subject, then you have to learn more about that and you have to implement that. Okay, so we are just giving the basic introductions how the vehicle is designed. Okay, so with this, I'm ending today's session. We'll meet you on Wednesday. Bye, take care.